Here we go. We're live. Excellent. Hello, David and Fiona and Kay. Kim, you've had a huge lunch at Victor Churchill. How delightful. Good to have you back. Jeff and Sue on the sausage rolls. Shell, it's all gravy baby over there. Oh, yum. Yes. So, hello, Dan. How you going? Good to see you. Yeah, I was really keen on making myself and the team here bangers and mash, but we have a lunch at Moorooduc this Sunday, and Peter and Jill are still in the kitchen. So I was not allowed to make bangers and mash today, but I did this morning get up early and make some sausage rolls. So sausage rolls with Jill's tomato sauce will make me very happy. Hello, Craig and all the Goodmans. Fiona, you've got pork sausages. Nice. Emily and Kevin, hello, welcome. Who else have I not said hello to? No, I think I've said hello to everyone. I think I've said hello to everyone so far. Yes, I'm very excited about my sausage rolls. I haven't had good sausage rolls for a little while, so special treat with some McIntyre Shiraz. Hello, Nareem. Hello, have you got all of the dyes there? Hello, Keely. McIntyre Vineyard Shiraz 2020 is what we're having. We have had this wine before, but we haven't had it for a little while. And after tasting Jeff's delightful Paramore Shiraz last week, I thought it was only essential that we had a Moorooduc Estate Shiraz to compare and contrast the following week. Hello, Keely and Jean. How you going, guys? Lovely to see you. So I'm going to stick this in a decanter, even though it's a 2020 and Jeff's wine was a 24. I just think that with these wines at this age, a little bit of air to get them started is a really good idea. Okay, here we go. Fiona's Shiraz has more herby notes for me, absolutely. I think that's one of the big differences in this wine. Get it in the glass, beautiful. It's a different colour as well from Jeff's wine. How many days until Adelaide, Nareem? Enough that I've still got a little bit more work to do on that. Okay, let's talk about this wine. Meat pies for Emily and Kevin from the Good Food Gluten-Free Bakery in Mornington. Fantastic. Hello, Jeff. How you going? You don't have. I'm not sure if you've got any 2020, but I'm sure you've got. So I have to tell the story before we get. I'm going to let this wine open up a little bit, but now that Jeff's on the line, which is fantastic, welcome back. You can be a regular again if you like. One of the things when Jeff started working here, he said the reason I wanted to come work at Moorooduc was because of your Shiraz. I love your Shiraz. It's really different. It's really interesting. It's really delicious. And we went, oh, yeah, great, excellent. We make some very nice Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Pinot Gris as well. There you go, Pete. And he said, yeah, but I love everything, but the Shiraz particularly. And I think about, what was it, Jeff? It was probably a month or so into your working at Moorooduc. I had to go into Cellar and say, Jeff, you've got to sell some other things besides the Shiraz, because we only make 100 cases of the Shiraz a year, and we make more of some other things. So it's a bit of a. This was your first Moorooduc love, wasn't it? The Shiraz, probably 2015 maybe. What was the first Shiraz that you were selling, Jeff? No sausage rolls. We have what, Dan? DKER. Dinner at Mike in an hour. Oh, that sounds nice as well. Yes. So it's your first real wine love, 2015. I thought it was. Yeah. So everything's coming full circle. It's a good thing. All right. So this wine, with a quick decant, has opened up beautifully, very quickly, and it's got a really expressive and different nose. And I agree with Fiona that it's got lots of sage and rosemary. Jeff has been building a list for drinks with Jeff. I've been getting spammed with Paramore emails. Really? You have to take that up with Jeff, Craig. As well as those herbal notes, I get a really beautiful blackberry and black currant aromatic right in the center of this wine, as well as some black cherry. It's got a really juicy fruit nose. So black plum, black cherry, black currant, blackberry, all of the black fruits that I love are in this wine. Often people talk about this wine being a little bit capsicum-y, but I think as soon as I gave it a decant and put it into the glass, that bit of air in it has really blown that that capsicum jalapeno note off. And I think also because the wine is just that little bit older, it's had a little bit longer in the bottle since last time we looked at it. I think that character has receded a little bit, and some of the other characters have come forward. There's a very strong black pepper note in the background of this wine. It's not a super spicy black pepper wine, but just a really mellow kind of ground black pepper note in the background there, behind the fruit and the herbs, which I think is really lovely. I think also the aromas of my sausage rolls, which I used Mum's recipe, and I was talking to Sue about it this morning, and she said, "Are you sure apple in the sausage rolls?" I said, "Absolutely." And when I related that to Mum, she said, "Oh, well, I put sultanas, a handful of sultanas in the last batch that I made." I'm like, "No, you didn't. There were no sultanas in there." I said, "Did you chop them up?" And she said, "No, just chuck them in. They sort of disintegrate into the sausage rolls." And they're delicious, and I think it's really, really good. I think, yes, definitely some white pepper notes as well, Craig. And Jeff, I love that little capsicum note. And for me, someone said to me a while back, jalapeno rather than green capsicum, and I'm with them on that because there's got a sort of a spicy lift to it, which is that combination of black and white pepper, but there's also a little bit of a jalapeno kind of spice to it as well. And the smell of the fatty, porky notes in the sausage rolls, which is why I thought bangers and mash would be fantastic. David, the banger sauce is good, but ask for a third of a bottle of Cab Franc and double the onions. Oh, good. Oh, that sounds delicious. I think that whether you went for good sausage rolls or good bangers and mash, that fatty, salty, juicy sweetness of the sausage and either the butteriness of the pastry or the butteriness of the mash are such a great foil to a wine like this. It's got all that fruit, but also got some savouriness, some spice, some herbs. The idea for me, the ideal circumstance when you're doing a wine and food match is that when you smell the food and you smell the wine, they both make you hungry, thirsty, and you can't decide whether you want to eat food first or drink wine first. And once you start having a mouthful of the wine and a bite of the food, then they just make each other smell and taste even better than they did on their own. Sue and Jeff, Jill's in the kitchen, Sue and Jeff, and I know that's Sue typing that. I'm very glad that your whole family loves Jill's sausage rolls. All our family does as well. Getting that roasted capsicum, Michelle, rather than raw capsicum as well, I think is that character. Hello, Zach. How are you going? Jackson, who are back from Rye soon. Sausage rolls, fantastic. Cheers. I'm going to have a sip of the wine. It's got beautiful tannins, and on the palate, it's much more savoury than it is on the nose. It's got a slightly earthy, slightly meaty note. I think it has more in common in the texture and on the palate with Jeff's wine from last week than it does on the nose. I think those two wines have very different aromatics, and I think that the aromatics on the Moorooduc McIntyre Shiraz come from the fact that we're maritime, that we're cool, that the fruit ripens in a different way being so close to the sea. We have less diurnal shift day and night than Jeff will have in Heathcote. We have more rainfall, so the vines are not as stressed in most years. It's pretty dry here at the moment, and we'd really like it to rain. It's supposed to rain a lot tomorrow, and we've got all our fingers and toes crossed for that. that diurnal shift, day and night, up in Macedon and in Heathcote in summer during the ripening period, it'll be hotter during the day and colder at night. Whereas here on the Mornington Peninsula, being surrounded by cold water cools things down a little bit during the day in comparison, but it also stops it from getting so cold at night. So we don't have the frost issues in winter and springtime that Jeff and his team and his neighbours have up in their part of the world, and that they have in Heathcote as well. But we also it's a softer difference between day and night temperature, and it's a much moister environment here. So you get different aromas. The vines behave differently, the fruit ripens differently, and you get these very distinctive aromatics from Moorooduc McIntyre Shiraz compared to the old girl Shiraz last week. The winemaking, interestingly, I believe is very, very similar, because the old girl was 100% whole bunch. This is 100% whole bunch. The old girl was made here, and the winemaking approach was a very similar approach. So the difference in the aroma and flavour profile, and yes, Jeff's wine is much, much younger, 4 years younger, so that's going to be a big difference in the characteristics. And Dad looks like he wants to say something about the winemaking. Did you want to say something about the winemaking, Dad? Do you want to come over here and say it so people can hear? This is the 2020. Yeah, I'm going to have a little bite of my sausage roll while Dad comes over to talk about the winemaking.
Talked about the crazy season or not?
I haven't talked about the crazy season, no.
So, how come that seems to
I know.
like a mirror?
It's a mirror image. Yeah, I know. It's really freaky.
Yeah. So, the winemaking, we've been making the Shiraz in this very similar way to this since 2010, and what I like about using this technique is that we get sweet fruitedness in this part of the world in wine very easily. The wine I was making from here before we started doing these whole bunch ferments was, to my mind, lacking a little bit of structure and length and savoury input. And this, I think, making it this way, rather to my surprise at the time, had a very positive impact in those parts of the wine. So what we do is we just have the whole, it's all hand harvested, of course, and the whole bunches go into a fermenter, and they sit there basically with doing nothing. We're doing nothing.
Sorry about the dogs.
For 7 or 8 days.
Oh, it's a cat. You keep talking, I'll sort out the dog.
Okay. And so we get a bit of carbonic maceration in that period with whole berries sitting there, not exposed to the normal yeast that we're looking for to complete the primary ferment. And then gradually, after about 7 or 8 days, I walk on it first once a day, and this squishes the grapes a little bit. It's really solid initially, and then it sort of gradually softens. And as I was implying, I think the in particular, those characteristics of the extra tannins, and then we get beautiful tannins from the stalks as well as the seeds and the skins. But the wine, I think, has terrific structure, and it has that savoury input, which I think makes it much more interesting. It also seemed to fill out the middle palate a bit more and had better length. So the whole thing, to me, was a big advance on what we had been doing. And I hope you enjoy it.
Dad, Craig has asked, before you run away, that we once said that this was our insurance for climate change. Have you seen much change in the Shiraz over the years?
Well, it's exactly my thoughts that this is an insurance against climate change, because it's a later ripening variety than our beloved Pinot Noir. And the climate is going to get warmer, almost certainly. So, I think the wine probably is evolving slowly as we get.
Someone else has come to help.
Be Jack. There's a big cat. He's a lovely cat. I think the wine has improved over the years, and probably because it's getting a little bit warmer, and Shiraz probably likes a little bit more warmth than Pinot Noir. We're also interested in other later ripening varieties, but that's not to be really.
We'll talk about that another time. Okay. So, have you seen it change over the years, though? Craig wants to know. Yeah, riper, less green notes, more voluptuousness to the wine. And also, in the early days, we didn't get it ripe every year, so we couldn't actually make a Shiraz from it in some years. Whereas these days, it's just the degree of ripeness.
Yeah, basically that.
Yep. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Dad. Okay. You can go and relax now. Yes, the shadow that went across our faces was Jack going in front of the light, but he's gone to talk to Richard now. Jeff is finding the added warmth in Heathcote is reducing the capsicum effect on the nose, sadly. Oh, that's a shame. So what else? Cardamom, Fiona, is picking up, and I agree. I think that there's David says, thank you, Richard. I agree there's a cardamom spice character to it. I'm a little bit, I was trying to work out whether it was the wine or whether it was Peter and Jill next door, because they're making Moroccan duck pies at the moment for Sunday's lunch, and that's got lots of Moroccan spices in it. But I think this wine as well has some lovely lifted Moroccan spice, bit of cardamom, a little bit of clove as well. There's that sort of savoury clove. Oh, Polly, you want to be on the camera now too. There's Polly. She's saying, why did you let the cat be on the camera but not me? Good girl. So Shell is telling Craig that they visited Helm, and I've got to say I really love Ken's Riesling particularly. It's delicious, and I'm glad you got to see them. So that was good, and it looked like you had a really fun time up around Canberra area, which is nice. I do stalk as many of you as I can on social media. I've got to say, as I stuffed that sausage roll in my mouth while Richard was talking, the fattiness and the sweetness of the meat and the juiciness of the sausage roll, as well as the buttery pastry, is a perfect match to this wine. It sort of softens the tannins down a little bit, not too much. It just brings out some meaty, spicy notes in the wine as well, which is really yum. Science time with Dr. McIntyre is always fun. Absolutely, Craig. He does well. But yeah, I think that the funny thing about climate change and the warming temperature in the area, it suggests that perhaps we could grow Cabernet quite well here, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc perhaps. And we've just pulled out our old Cabernet vines that we grafted over to Pinot Noir. We're not going to be replanting them. There's a possibility that we might put in a couple of Cabernet Franc vines, but I think I'd be kind of really pushing pretty hard to try and get that to happen. I'm not sure if Richard's that keen on the old Cabernet Franc. David's saying that it seems like lower alcohol than last year, but I don't think it is. Well, on the label, it says 13.5%, and I can't remember how much alcohol Jeff's wine had last week, but I don't think it was much higher than that. 13.5, 14, something like that, Jeff. Craig, tomato sauce for sure, but it's homemade tomato sauce. It's Jill's homemade tomato sauce. It's a fresh batch. It's a good batch. And I think the secret to the sausage rolls is definitely the apple, 14% on Jeff's wine. So a little bit different for sensitive people like you, David, for sure. But I think also the flavour profile is really different. The Heathcote Shiraz was much earthier. It was It was more solid. This one's got a bit more of an ethereal kind of perfumed character to it. They're just different, and I think it's one of the really cool things. I think I've said this to you guys before, but if you really want to understand the different wine regions of Australia, then when you're traveling around or when you're buying wine, you should always think about your favorite regions and what their favorite grape variety is. And most regions will have a different lead grape variety than Shiraz. If we're talking about Barossa, McLaren Vale, that's been Shiraz for a long time. But more recently, particularly McLaren Vale, people who like, variety in their lives are talking more about Grenache and are talking more about Italian varietals. In Coonawarra, yes, they grow Shiraz, but their big thing is Cabernet. Cabernet is really kind of, the king varietal, but then everyone grows Shiraz as well. The Hunter Valley in New South Wales is famous for its Shiraz, but it's also famous for its Semillon. And so people push the Semillon forward because it's a little bit different from anything else in the world. The Shiraz is there. It's very highly regarded, but it's Shiraz. If you come to the Mornington Peninsula, we're always talking about Pinot Noir, but really interesting Shiraz coming from this part of the world. If you go to the Yarra Valley, they grow Shiraz there, but they talk more about Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon. So Shiraz is a variety. It's grown in Tasmania as well, but they don't talk about it so much. And it's grown very successfully in some places in Tasmania. So Shiraz is a variety that can cope with a whole lot of different conditions and sort of take it on the chin and go, okay, well, I'm in a cool maritime climate, I'll do this. Oh, I'm in a hot inland climate, I'll do this instead. It's very resilient, but you can taste the different locations in the wines. And so if you go around Australia, always taste the variety that they're most famous for, but then also taste the Shiraz of the region and you'll understand the region much better. David is, the car strength whiskey drinking's increased your sensitivity to 0.5. Excellent. Shell only drinks Semillon from Hunter. I am kind of with you on that, but that's because bigger Shirazes are really, this is about as big as I go with Shiraz normally. Craig, standard restaurant strategy, find the cheapest grapes from the region that it specialises in, always a bargain. Nice, excellent. I reckon, and this is a joke somewhere on social media, but there's a rule: if you're in a country that you don't know the wines, or you're at a restaurant and you don't recognise the wines, it's always go for the second cheapest wine, not the cheapest. Craig, it's a shock, but there's a decent Pinot in the Hunter. Don't shoot me. Look, there's always exceptions to the rule wherever you go. Are you going to tell us who makes a decent Pinot in the Hunter, Craig, or are you going to keep that to yourself? David, Syrah, close planted Shiraz Viognier, nice Yarra example, absolutely. Shaw and Smith make a beautiful Shiraz in the Adelaide Hills. There's a myriad. Montpere Shiraz, sounds very French, doesn't it? But it's from Tasmania. Very good Shiraz from Tasmania. Made by the son of a Barossa Shiraz maker. One of the sons stayed in Barossa. The other son moved to Tasmania with his French wife, and they're making very different wine. They're both making wine. They're making very different wines as a result. What else? So and the other thing that's really interesting about Shiraz is that it's not a hugely popular grape variety outside of Australia. So we exported a lot of big Barossa Shirazes to America in the 80s and 90s, and Americans hate, in general, Americans don't understand big, hot climate Australian Shiraz. They love a big Napa Valley Cabernet or a big Napa Zinfandel if they're having a steak. Aussie Shiraz doesn't do it generally for the American wine drinking populace. Shell, I messed that up. I drink Semillon only from Hunter, nowhere else. Okay. The Hunter is great. Loved our long lunch. Absolutely. Jack and Zach, there are a lot more Italian varieties in McLaren Vale, but Mencia, which is one of the varieties that we're seeing in McLaren Vale, is actually from Spain. But let's say Mediterranean varietals, and then that kind of gives you a coverall for all of them. Any good maritime Margaret River Shiraz? I'm sure there is, David. I can't think of anything at the moment. I know that there's some great Shiraz coming out of the Swan Valley, but I'm sure there are some people who are doing. There must be one or two people doing good Shiraz in the Hunter. I'll have to let you know. I'm going to Perth in a couple of weeks. It's why we've got a break coming up in 3 weeks' time. I'm going to Perth the week before. Those of us who are going to Adelaide together go to Adelaide. So that must mean that Adelaide's a little bit less than 4 weeks away. I'll check out the Shiraz, oh God, the cat's doing weird things. I'll check out Margaret River for any decent Shiraz. I must say I do love their Cabernets and their Cabernet blends. So I haven't really kind of gone looking for. There we go. Thank you, Kay. Flame Tree Shiraz from the Margaret River. Very, very good. Emily agrees with the US view. Myself as an exception, but this is Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Do love a good Zin. I love a good Zin too. And Kevin, I think you've been in Australia for long enough for you to have become indoctrinated into Australian Shiraz. The English think that Australian Shiraz is either Penfolds Grange or really cheap kangaroo wine. You know which one I'm talking about. So Shiraz doesn't have a fabulous reputation in the UK, but the English are the most sort of open-minded about all wine styles from around the world. So they drink a bit more of it than other people around the world. And where else? Europe, they don't get Shiraz. They think it's Australian Shiraz is too sweet and too fruity. So it's very special. All wines are maritime in Margaret River because they're similarly priced to a boat. Thank you. There are some pretty shitty boats for sale, Craig, says David, but they're still quite expensive, aren't they, David, for what you get for the money? So I want to know if you guys think, and it's a hard question to ask because I'm assuming that those of you who've got sausage rolls don't have bangers and mash. But I would like to know from the bangers and mash folk. David said that the sauce was good. Is the onion gravy good with the wine? Because I reckon the sweetness of an onion gravy with the fat from the sausages in it would be pretty awesome with this wine. I'm going to put some more. Good, Fiona. I think a wine like this is great with sausagey flavours, but it needs other things because it's a complex wine. It needs complex food, and that's the other thing to remember, that if you're doing some wine and food matching, then if you've got a pretty complex wine, then you probably want food that's got layers of flavour. And you may say sausage rolls are not particularly complex, but the spicy characters and the apple and carrot and onion in the sausage roll, as well as the butteriness of the pastry and the sweetness of the tomato sauce, mirror the fatty, meaty sausaginess of your bangers and mash with your buttery potato and your sweet and salty gravy, onion gravy on top. Very, very cool. David was saying, even though it was Cab Franc, a sauce without wine is like a horse with no spine. Excellent, David. Fair enough. Kay is saying this wine has more pepper, white and black than Jeff's last week. I agree. It's also got, for me, a violet floral note to it, which we didn't see in Jeff's wine last week. Jeff's wine was more sort of dark fruit and savoury, earthy notes. This has got more pepper spice. It's got more floral lift. It's sort of up here and down here. And so I just think they're a really nice compare and contrast. Different versions of a variety that is very happy to be. Also, horse with no spine is a dead horse, which is what goes on the slaughter. Thank you, Fiona. Sue and Jeff like the way the savouriness comes more to the fore as the wine opens up. Absolutely. And Fiona is saying, I think the woody herb and woody spice notes in the wine is great with the onion. Yeah, I hoped that it would be. I think onion has this amazing sweetness to it, but the sulphur in onion as well makes it savoury. So it's savoury and sweet at the same time. And good Shiraz, I reckon, is also savoury and sweet at the same time. And for me, a lot of Shirazes from really hot climates have too much sweetness and not enough savouriness to them, whereas this wine has a really nice balance of sweet fruit and savoury characters as well. I was hoping that Jeremy might jump on the call, but I'm going to have to tell you what he's doing tonight rather than him telling you for himself, because it's pretty cool. He's having a little holiday and he's just converted the kids' old climbing frame playhouse, which is a wooden cubby house, into a chook shed, and he and the two children are planning to have a campfire and roast marshmallows and sleep in the chook shed tonight. So here's to Jeremy sleeping in the chook shed. I hope it doesn't rain. And I'm sorry you couldn't get on to tell us about it yourself, but I hope you've got a glass of wine there somewhere to help you to sleep in the chook shed. At least the chooks aren't in there yet. Kay opened one of the McIntyre 2015 Shiraz on the weekend with a lamb roast. It was fabulous. So lamb roast is another really classic match to good Shiraz. I totally agree. That would have been delicious. Craig, you backed a few spineless horses, did you, on the weekend? Well, that'll teach you to bet on the GGs. The hints of chocolate are coming through now. Yeah, chocolate, cocoa, really nice. Hey, Dad, could I have a little bit more, please? My glass is getting a bit empty. Thank you. So I think at this stage, when your glass is getting towards the bottom, it's always nice to give it a little freshen. Thank you. Because then you get different smells again all of a sudden. Yeah. That chocolate, it's like dark compound chocolate and bitter cocoa all sort of mixed up together. There's a really classic descriptor for Barossa Shiraz, which only works for Australians, and that's cherry ripe. And I always teach my WSET students not to say cherry ripe, talk about the components that make you think of a cherry ripe, and that's kind of glacé cherries, sugary coconut, and dark compound chocolate. This has got a bit of dark cherry, but it's kind of it's definitely fresh rather than glacé cherry. It's got lots of black plums still. And you're right, Craig, it's not compound chocolate here. It's high cocoa level, high quality chocolate. 65% lint, do you reckon? Not the 70% lint? It's up there. It's got that fruity dark chocolate kind of note to it, which is one of the reasons that a lot of people like to eat dark chocolate with Shiraz. And we have talked about this before. And for those of you who are chocolate and Shiraz eaters and drinkers, when you finish your sausages and mash or your sausage rolls, if you want to get some dark chocolate, if you've got a little bit of the wine left, then by all means, give it a go. It doesn't work for me, but if you're going to match wine and chocolate, I think a Shiraz like this needs a dark fruity style of chocolate, like a 65 to 75% lint dark chocolate. Needs to have a fruitiness to it. Needs to have a little bit of that creaminess still in it that you get in dark lint chocolate that you don't get in some of the other some people would say more serious, some people would say more masochistic dark chocolates that just are kind of grainy and less sugar and less cream and more bitterness. Craig, you're struggling to get past 65, but don't don't mind the single region Lint 70 stuff. I agree. I think that a lot of dark chocolate over 65% is a bit masochistic, unless you're really into. Look, if you love a really strong short espresso coffee and a really bitter dark piece of chocolate, then I say go for it. You probably should be drinking more Barolo and more Italian wine, red Italian wine, to go with it. But I think there's a lot of really lovely space in between. I'm seeing more again of the berry fruit coming up. Thank you, Craig. More berry fruit coming up, and still that lovely drying, fine-grained tannin on the palate, which just makes you want to have more food. So, team, Dan, one of those weird people that drinks lots of espresso but can't do dark chocolate. Each to their own, Dan. We all have our own loves and not loves. I was going to say hates, but it's not really a hate. It's just an intolerance. Shell just pulled out the 70% we use for cooking. It works very well. Haha. I was actually speaking directly to you, Shell, when I said you can pull out the chocolate later or now. Yeah, I think this has been a really great little compare contrast. Fiona just broke out the cocoa black. Excellent. I'm going to have a little bit more sausage roll. Hang on a sec. Yum. Aglianico coming soon. Oh, Jeff, that's exciting. So when you're saying coming soon, Jeff, when did you plant the vines? Are they vines that you've planted since you've been there? Was there fruit that came in this year, or are we talking about sometime in the next few years? Because that could be very exciting. We could do Aglianico from you guys, and we could do Nebbiolo from Moorooduc. We could have all sorts of fun with Italian grape varietals. I apologise as well. I put too much sausage roll in my mouth. I didn't realise that was going to take me quite so long to chew. But yeah, that'll be fabulous, Jeff. I reckon Aglianico's very exciting. So I feel like we're kind of coming to the end of our discussion. So if anyone's got any other questions, I know we've tasted this wine before. I think it's getting better and better. I do have to say that we are nearly sold out of the 2020 McIntyre Vineyard Shiraz. So if you are someone who loves this wine and you maybe don't have enough of it in your cellar at the moment, or you've been putting off buying it, don't put it off for too long. Is the way for Ang. Craig, are you having a stroke? Help. I don't understand. Neb is Italy's gift to the world, absolutely, Dan. And it could be fairly foolish of us to be trying to grow it and make it here, but we're having fun giving it a go. Jeff Plan, Heathcote Vineyard is top heavy with Shiraz and Cabernet, so switching out for Montepulciano and Aglianico, I am totally and 100% in approval of that. That's fantastic. Please keep us in the loop with that. We're looking forward to hearing about that. Is the way for, yeah, Aglianico, but I don't know, it's a winery that makes good. Thank you, Craig. Are they in Italy or? See, Craig, I just don't understand your cool young people kind of talk. Where is Isaway? Isaway. Toyota? Yeah. Inspired by Sutton Grange Aglianico. Yeah, the guys at Sutton Grange are doing a great job. Aussie Hunter, is it Craig? Is it Hunter? Maybe. New Safeway. Thank you, David. Isway, New Safeway. Thank you. I still don't know where Isway is, but I will look it up after our chat. Sounds great. That's all right, Dan. I think we've kind of lost the plot a little bit over that ways. South Australia. Thank you, Dan. Okay, cool. I will look out for it. So, yes, 2020 Shiraz nearly finished, nearly sold out. So if you wanted to grab some to put in your cellar, that's all right, Jeff. Jeff, I'm understanding what you're writing. It's just the other guys that are not making quite as much sense. Around near Seppeltsfield. Okay, Dan. Okay, cool. I'll check it out. I think at this point in time, I'm going to give up. I have to say, guys, it's been awesome. Next week, we are supposed to be doing the Devil Ben Creek Pinot Gris, but I have to go to a funeral next Thursday, and I'm not sure whether I'll be back in time for Drinks with Kate. So I will have a look at the timing, and I'll send you guys an email on Monday and let you know whether we're having to postpone next week or whether we think we'll be back in time. But yeah, Pinot Gris, Devil Ben Creek, last one in existence. Thanks, David. Yeah, it's a bit shit, but such is life. And on that note, I would like to, and I hope I'm not going to make myself cry, but if I do, just ignore it. I would like to say lots of love to our beautiful friend Dick Dufty, who died last Friday. He loved Shiraz, and he taught me about Shiraz. And he wasn't a big fan of Mornington Peninsula Pinot Noir, but we loved him anyway, and we'll miss him a lot. So there we go. Jeff, Shiraz is a bit too good tonight, you reckon? It's all thank you. No, we're gonna do Devil Ben Creek Pinot Gris either next week or the following week. But we're gonna do a really cool food and wine match with that wine. So it's more about the food and wine match. It's also about looking at a wine that went to Queensland and then came back to us again. So it's about looking at how you guys have had the Devil Ben Creek Pinot Gris before. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone. Don't be nice because I'll cry. But this Devil Ben Creek Pinot Gris has been to Queensland and come back again because our distributors couldn't sell it there. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. But I think we probably won't do it next week. We'll probably do it the week after. Hopefully that's not going to muck up your timetables too much. We'll work things out in the next few days. But in the meantime, now that I've made myself cry, I'm going to love you and leave you. He might find Mornington Pinot in another life when he gets to the next level of enlightenment, I think, David, absolutely. So cheers, everyone. Thank you so much. And I will see you again really soon. Love you all.